Welcome to the Core Experience, your connection to community, business, and the people who make it happen. With your hosts, Adam Emberton and Brittany Reba.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Core Experience. This is the second episode of Season 4. My name is Adam Emberton, Learning and Development Officer.
And I'm Brittany Reba, the Digital Marketing Specialist.
Today we're going to have Kristin Lowrey, who's the Executive Director at Access Period. But before we get to our guest, we're going to share some things that's been going on here at Core Bank.
Yeah, since we last met, we experienced the very bold and cold polar plunge. That was the fundraiser for the Special Olympics that we talked about at the last episode. And we got our degrees. That was the theme. What did you think of it?
Yeah, all wearing our graduation caps. So if you've ever been, we get a lot of people in costumes. Our theme was the degree of freeze, or every degree counts. And I think we probably could have used a few more degrees that day.
Yeah.
But if you are outside right now, it's even colder. So we're thankful for the weather that we got, even though it felt cold that day compared to the way it is today. Definitely didn't feel as cold.
The feel then was 10 degrees, very windy. But yeah, not to what it is today.
I did end up making it in the water. I know I did not go under. Did you go under? I
did not dunk my head all the way. I went up to my shoulders and I ran. They have a mannequin out there and they cut the ice that morning of, and they have the mannequin, and I ran as fast as I could out there. I was putting mind over matter, and I was like, okay, like, I don't know if you've ever heard of the game, The Floor is Lava. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, I'm pretending I'm going into lava. That's like the water is lava.
Well, and I can tell you, I really don't do much running, but that day I was running
Yes.
and running in and out. The water, the nice thing about being tall is the water only went up to my waist, but that was plenty for me. Touched the mannequin, turned around, and quickly came out of there. But the great news is that we did surpass our goal, right? That of the money we wanted to raise, as we ended up raising, we had 51 people plunge.
Yeah, we even had more plungers, and as we got closer to the event, they signed up. We had a big team.
We did have a big team, and we ended up raising $27,400 just with Core Bank. And how did we do overall with the Special Olympics of Nebraska?
I believe it was over about $340,000 for all the teams combined of what was raised.
Yeah, and had over 1,000 people. I think the final number was closer to 1,100 people that day plunging, which is much larger than it was last year, too.
The largest amount of plungers from what I've heard from all the events that they've held. So
yeah, which is great. Yeah. And that event gets bigger every year, and we love to see that. It's one of our favorite events here. The more plungers we get, the better. The more plungers they get at Lake Zurinsky, the better. So we are excited to see so many people there this year, and excited to see even more next year. Well, we are excited to have our first guest of Season 4 here of the Core Experience. We have Kristin Lowrey here, who is the Executive Director at Access Period. Kristin, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Thanks for joining us. We're excited to have you here, especially because you are our first guest, but also because of everything that you have going on at Access Period, and we're excited to talk about that today. So, Kristin, just to start here, can you just kind of share the story behind Access Period and what really inspired you to start this initiative?
Sure. So in 2022, I was a volunteer and board member with another organization called Partnership for Hope. And Partnership for Hope serves young adult former foster youth. And one of the ways that they do that is through a free store called Youth Mart. It's on the Omaha Home for Boys campus. And in volunteering there, I saw that we did get donations of period supplies. And from my own experience, I know how important it is that everyone who menstruates has access to them. But it wasn't ever enough to cover the need. So I thought that was something that I could do personally, would be to get period products for the people that Youth Mart serves. And I wanted to do a really good job of it. So I started talking to other nonprofits around Omaha to see how they were distributing period products. Where were they buying them from? How many were they giving to each person? And what I heard over and over again was the same same answer. They all said we don't distribute period products because they're too expensive, it's way too complicated, and when we're trying to solve really big problems like hunger and homelessness, very much gets in the way. It's easy to push to the side. And so in seeing that this wasn't a need that was really being tackled by anyone head on, I thought that if one organization or one person was just focused on this, we might be able to make a really big difference.
That's incredible. So I know you've been here and we've assembled the period packages here. Do you want to share more about the core mission of Access Period and how it's evolved since you initially started?
Sure. So our mission is to meet people's immediate needs, people who are experiencing period product insecurity and don't have access to what they need. But while we do that, we also want to build systems and relationships that make sure that no one has to miss out on work or school or daily life because they don't have access to basic needs products.
That's great. And I know you kind of already mentioned this, when we think of things such as homelessness or hunger, we kind of focus on those, right? Don't think of maybe some other needs that are out there, some donations that are out there. So why is it that menstrual equity is such an important issue? And what are some of the biggest misconceptions around it?
Gosh, well, I think it's such an important issue because there are people that are missing out on life because they don't have access to these products. And because of the shame and stigma that surrounds menstruation, it's something that's really hard to talk about. So people they don't always feel comfortable to ask for what they need. They might just stay home from work or school. And when that happens, it's not just them that misses out. It's all of us, right? When they're not at class, when they're not at work and not able to contribute, the whole world is missing out on them and their talents. And so, by trying to kind of break that shame and stigma, we can make it easier for people to advocate for themselves and ask for what they need, and make it easier for support systems like schools and workplaces and other agencies to be able to give people what they need.
That's great.
So what would you say are the biggest barriers to menstrual equality today, and that those challenges?
Yeah, definitely that shame and stigma. People aren't used to talking about it. When I first kind of came up with this plan, the first couple people I talked to about it were like, gosh, I really don't get that. I don't think I presented it in a way that they thought it was a really good idea. And it was because I wasn't used to talking about it. I wasn't using the right language. And so it's hard, even for someone that feels really passionately about this, to articulate why this is so important. So we have to get used to talking about it. And the only way to do that is by actually talking about it. So that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited to be here today to talk to you, because we have to get used to it. If it's a problem that we can't define, it will never, ever be solved. No matter how many resources, no matter how much people care, we have to talk about it. We have to make sure that people know about it.
Yeah, definitely. Because I feel like you hear a lot about food drives, like as you mentioned, and not always thinking about the menstrual products and, the expense that is on families. And,
absolutely. To go to the store and buy, a bunch of canned food feels really good all the time. Right? But to go to the store and buy a bunch of pads for a drive might feel a little bit embarrassing, especially if you've never done that before, or, if you don't know what to buy because you've never, if you don't menstruate and have never purchased them for someone else, it can feel a little funny. And so, we got to find ways to invite people into the cause without making them feel uncomfortable.
That's great. And I think it's great that you're out talking about it. And I'm excited that we're able to have you on this podcast today to talk about it, just because, if you don't know, or if you don't hear about it, you're not going to know, right? So you need to learn about those things. Can you tell us what communities would you say are probably most impacted by period poverty?
Yeah. So, I mean, people experiencing any type of poverty are also more likely to experience period poverty. 1 in 4 people who menstruate don't always have access to what they need. But this problem really shows itself in places that are food deserts, like North Omaha, for example, where there aren't, ample grocery stores. There isn't easy access to big box stores where products are really affordable. If you can only go to a gas station to get period products, they're going to be way more expensive in way smaller quantities. And that exact same problem shows itself in rural areas as well, where they might only have, a convenience store in town, or people who live in, really, really rural, Cherry County might not have any stores or anywhere to buy products. And so if they're not prepared, if they don't have, for students, if they don't have parents that are able to either afford the products or that are thinking about them, that can really, really show itself in those areas as well.
So how does Access Period measure the impact in the communities, and can you share any success stories?
Sure. So we have a couple ways that we measure our impact. The easiest one is through products distributed. So since we started in 2022, we've been able to share 2.5 million period products with Nebraskans. And the average person uses about 25 period products per month. So we don't know exactly how many people that we have served because periods are deeply personal. We don't take any personal information from anyone that we serve. We believe that everyone deserves, access to free period products without being asked a lot of questions. And so the best way to measure that is through those period products distributed. We also have some other measurements, and you can look at our website too to find those. But my favorite is to measure worry-free days. So for every 5 period products distributed, we count that as 1 worry-free day where someone can accomplish their goals and think about other things.
Get to school and work and not have anxieties. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's
and
great.
Some of our, or most of our success stories come from our partner agencies. So I'll tell you a little bit about how we distribute products. We have 3 programs. The first is statewide access points. So from Scottsbluff to Omaha up to Norfolk, we have 10 places where anyone can access free period products. And these are mostly in 3-month kits. And for people who aren't connected with another nonprofit or a school, they can get an unlimited amount of products. For people who are maybe worried about their status or identity being questioned, it's so important that they are also able to access basic needs products, or access points are one of the ways that we do that. We also have about 60 partner agencies across the state. So these are other nonprofits that already serve the people that we want to reach. So we give them products so they can then pass them on to the people that they're serving, so they don't have to go to another place. They can get products where they already are. And then the third is through schools. So with those 3 programs, we don't see the people who use our products very much. So all of our success stories come from our partner agencies, and a couple of recent ones that really kind of struck me. We provide products to the National Parks Department, the Lewis and Clark landing. There are a lot of people who stop there to use the restroom and might not have another place to stop, maybe if they're living in their car or living in an RV. And we heard from our partner there that one family stopped in that had quite a few young girls in their family, a bunch of sisters, and they were so thankful to receive these products because, where in the campgrounds that they stay in and just the lifestyle that they were living was really difficult to get really good quality products that made them feel good about their bodies. And so, stories like that. Or we have a strong partnership with some of the refugee services programs at Omaha Public Schools. And so to be able to introduce Of course, free period supplies, but other things like period underwear, which is kind of a newer period product to some of those families, where maybe they're hesitant to try it, but then they come back later and say, oh, can we actually have enough for everyone? Is just feels so good to be able to help them feel good.
Well, I'm sure it's very rewarding to really just see the appreciation or even see the excitement around things that probably not a lot of people think of. I think we've touched on that a couple times now, but I mean, just you don't think about it. So seeing people come up saying thank you, seeing the joy behind it, I'm sure that means a lot. And I can tell when you're talking about it, you have a lot of joy behind this. Even before we were on the podcast, we were talking a little bit, and I could just hear the joy behind your voice. So what would you say is probably the most rewarding part for you in your journey with Access Period?
Oh, gosh. I think being able to open people's minds to the idea that everyone deserves to have their basic needs met. And I think that for people who believe that, there's always something that kind of was the light bulb moment. And this, I think, is that for some people, especially, when we're talking about, a problem with such stigma, a problem that, affects women. This is just something that I think people don't think about, and people who don't menstruate would never think about really the agony of not having access to these products that they need, and what that looks like, and what it looks like to miss so much school and so much work. And so I think seeing light bulb moments is the most rewarding part.
Core Bank was proud to award Access Period with the $5,000 Core Cares Community Impact Award, and that was in January, so just recently. So what are some of the ways individuals and businesses can support Access Period?
Well, I want to thank you again for that award. That meant so much to us and made a really, really big difference. And ways that anyone can get involved are, of course, to volunteer. We have a warehouse in downtown Omaha where anyone can come and volunteer, either as individuals or as groups. We also do packing parties, like the one that we had here, where we bring supplies to groups for them to assemble. Great for team builders. We also need monetary donations. Our website is accessperiod.com. There's a variety of ways to donate. The most fun way is to join the Period Party, which is a group of people who have committed to giving monthly $10 or more. And we have special events, and you get a very cool piece of swag every year. This one is a artifact bag. And so those are two ways to get involved with Access Period. But to get involved with this cause, everyone can make a really big difference. And I think that the best way to do it is to think about what restrooms you have influence over. So is it your work or your gym, your child's school? And how can you get free period products into those restrooms? It's surprisingly inexpensive to stock a restroom with free period products, but of course, very expensive when people miss school or work because of it. So, I mean, the cost benefit is just off the charts. So looking at how you can influence your community. If we had free period products in every restroom, this just wouldn't be a problem. Access Period could close up shop. So if we all work together and do that one tiny thing, we can really solve this problem.
So, Kristin, do you have any upcoming events or campaigns or initiatives that you want to tell our listeners about?
No, we do not have anything special on the calendar. No big events. What we do every Friday have volunteer events at our warehouse. So we would love to have people sign up to volunteer. We'd love to meet more people. And I think that our big events are what our volunteers plan. So packing parties at their workplaces or with their schools. Women's History Month is coming up in March. It's our busiest month. So almost every day is filled already with events and packing parties because it's, when this is top of mind. But we'd like to fill all of the months of the year and have this always be top of mind.
It's nice that you can come to the organization or the group and to have the packing parties and, really have volunteers all over the community. And so it's a really flexible opportunity to help the community, it sounds like.
Well, Kristin, where can our listeners learn more about Access Period and any events that you may have coming up in the future?
Yeah, the best way is our website. It's accessperiod.com. On social media, we're most active on Instagram, and our handle is just @accessperiod. And we post almost every day what we're up to and what we need the most, and what upcoming events we have.
And we're excited to have you come back in May for our staff food for thought and for you to share more and hopefully we can get a group and do our own packing party here. But you were saying the week of May is menstrual period week? Or
yes. So the week that will be there is Period Poverty Awareness Week. Yes.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Kristin, thank you so much for joining us today. We are so glad that we were able to have you on the podcast.
Thank you.
And, able to share your story and share more information about Access Period. Before we let you go, is there any other information or do you have any final thoughts that you would like to share with our listeners?
Gosh, I think that the most exciting thing about Access Period and what we do is that we are tackling a problem that's totally solvable. Period poverty can end in our generation. And so, if we all get involved and we all do a tiny part, we can solve this problem. So I invite everyone listening to join our cause and be part of it.
And I think you get the kind of the unique opportunity to say, we want it to be, hey, we're not needed anymore.
Yes, exactly. Yep, that's the goal.
Well, we thrive to foster a sense of community and we value your input. So please submit your questions about the year's content and topics you'd like to hear in the future.
And please make sure you are sharing our podcast with our connections. Go out, like and subscribe on YouTube, like and subscribe on your favorite streaming service so that you do not miss future episodes.
But for more information on the Core Experience podcast, make sure to go to corebank.com/podcast or email coreexperience@corebank.com.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Core Experience, your connection to community, business, and the people who make it happen. For more details, visit corebank.com/podcast or email coreexperience@corebank.com. Brought to you by Core Bank, member FDIC.